The fog clung to the winding roads like a silent predator, suffocating everything in its path. Sara Dawson's hands tightened around the steering wheel, her heart drumming a slow rhythm of dread as her GPS flickered ominously. She had promised herself she'd never return to Black Hollow Manor. But promises were fragile things, easily broken by shadows from the past. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of wet earth and something else, something faintly metallic that made the hairs on the back of Sara's neck rise. The headlights of her old car struggled to pierce through the mist, illuminating just enough of the road to remind her she was dangerously close to her destination. Black Hollow Manor loomed somewhere ahead, hidden in the fog, a ghost waiting to be unearthed. As the GPS lost its signal completely, Sara glanced up. There it was, a lone, weathered sign, barely readable through the years of decay, whispering the name she had long buried in her memories. Black Hollow Manor. The knot in her stomach tightened as she pulled into the overgrown driveway. The manor, a relic from a time long gone, stood in the distance, half swallowed by the encroaching fog. Its silhouette was as imposing as ever, tall and gaunt against the dark sky. Sara had forgotten how massive it truly was, how it seemed to loom over the land like a forgotten titan. And yet, here it was, unchanged just as she remembered. The house had always been more than just a structure. It was alive, breathing, waiting. The past had warned her. The past had haunted her dreams, weaving itself into nightmares she could never fully shake. And yet, despite everything, here she was, drawn back, alone. Sara stepped out of the car, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. The wind, sharp and biting, whispered through the trees, carrying a faint sound that almost resembled a name. Her name, she stiffened, glancing over her shoulder. But there was nothing, only the shifting fog and the dense woods that bordered the estate. With a deep breath, she turned toward the house. Each step felt heavier than the last as she approached the front door. The once grand manor was a decaying husk of its former self. Ivy snaked up the stone walls, and parts of the porch had collapsed under the weight of time. The windows were dark and lifeless, as if the house had long since given up on keeping the light inside. The door creaked loudly as she opened it, the sound echoing through the cavernous foyer. Inside, the scent of mildew and rot greeted her, a stale reminder of the years the manor had stood abandoned. Dust motes swirled lazily in the dim light that filtered through the dirty windows. Everything was just as she remembered, frozen in time. The grand staircase loomed before her, its banister worn smooth by the touch of countless hands over generations. She used to slide down that banister as a child, laughing without a care in the world. But those memories felt distant now, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere of the manor. Black Hollow had never truly been a home, had always been something darker, something dangerous. She made her way up the stairs, each creak beneath her feet echoing through the empty halls. Her destination was clear, her great-aunt Martha's study. It had always been the one place in the house she was never allowed to enter. And now, it was the one place that seemed to call her the loudest. Reaching the study door, she hesitated. The knob was cold under her hand, the weight of it familiar and heavy. She turned it slowly, the door swinging open with a groan. Inside, the room was dark, save for a single shaft of moonlight that pierced through the curtains, illuminating the large desk in the center. The shelves that lined the walls were filled with books, their spines cracked and brittle with age. Strange objects cluttered the desk, old photographs, peculiar trinkets, and what appeared to be ancient talismans. But what caught her attention was the leather-bound journal lying in the center of the desk, its cover cracked and worn. Sara's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the key to the secrets that had haunted her family for generations. She reached for the journal, her fingers brushing the rough leather. But before she could open it, the door behind her slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. Her heart leapt into her throat as she spun around, eyes wide. There was no one there. The room was still, yet the air felt thicker, suffocating, as if something unseen had just entered. Something ancient and cold. A whisper filled the room, soft but unmistakable. "Sara, you've come back." Her pulse quickened, and she took a step back from the desk. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, as if the very walls were speaking to her. Suddenly, the shadows in the corners of the room shifted. A figure began to emerge from the darkness, tall, gaunt, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Its grin stretched unnaturally wide, revealing a mouth that seemed to yawn open, hungry for something. Sara's breath hitched. She stumbled backward, her mind screaming for her to run, but her legs felt frozen in place. The figure moved closer, its long fingers reaching out toward her. Then, with a surge of adrenaline, Sara bolted for the door. She wrenched it open and darted into the hallway, her heart racing as she fled down the stairs. The house groaned behind her, as if it too was waking from a long sleep. Every creak and groan felt alive, following her like a predator chasing its prey. She burst out the front door and into the cold night, gasping for breath. The fog swirled around her, thick and suffocating, but she didn't care. She had to get away, far away from the house, from whatever had just awoken inside it. But Black Hollow wasn't done with her. Whatever ancient force lay within the walls of that decaying manor had just begun to stir. What had Sara uncovered? And would she be able to escape the horrors that awaited her? Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where the secrets of Black Hollow will come to light, and the darkness will tighten its grip.